Dr. Hitson, I come from Tonga.
No,
in the
Professor
South
Hitchens,
Pacific.
please.
Professor, before Christianity came, Tonga, Fiji, they have men for dinner. And in Tonga, it was a mess. My question is, let's say they did not come to the Pacific. What do you have to offer us as an atheist? What do you have to offer us?
Well, should I ventriloquize the question? I'm not sure everybody heard it. The gentleman is from the island of Tonga, which is in the Pacific. Used to be a British Crown possession. I don't know if it still is. I'm certain that's how the Christians got there anyway, thanks to British imperialism. And he says that before the Christians came, people were freely dining off one another. This is a fair... In Fiji, yeah. I've heard the stories. It's often struck me as a tremendous problem. Why was no redemption ever sent to this island? Why did it go on? It reminds me of the question I closed by in my original statement. 98,000 years of human existence, and heaven watches with indifference. We're expected to believe 2,000 years ago intervenes by means of a human sacrifice in which all took part and which all must believe, and that's the salvation. And it's not offered to the Chinese, who at that stage can read and can write and can build boats and can have libraries and gunpowder and can spread an idea. No. It takes many thousands of years before, in a very weird form, it gets to China at all. There are parts of Borneo where people still practice cannibalism, where this message still hasn't spread. Now, this isn't a problem for me because I regard it as man-made. It isn't a problem for me. This is my answer because I regard it as man-made. The answer for you must be, unless you accuse humanism or secularism of advocating cannibalism, which it does not, is how come this design, this revelation, this redemption, this faith-based, and I should remind Dinesh earlier that my identification of the problem was precisely faith, the preference of that over reason and evidence. Why doesn't it seem to work? Why, whenever you ask, why is there so much suffering, misery, ignorance, backwardness, and barbarism? Why is that question unanswerable in the terms in which it's asked? You've just phrased it for Tonga and Fiji.
I think Christopher's missing the force of the argument here, which is not simply that the Christians have been negligent in carrying this universal message, but that when Christianity came to the rest of the world, it brought new values into those cultures. One time I said to my grandfather, how come we are part of a tiny Christian minority in India? And he said, 2 words, the Portuguese Inquisition. Meaning that some very zealous missionaries, possibly accompanied with some bayonets, came to India and Christianized the Indians. I want to say 2 things about this, however. Even though that may have occurred at the beginning, you found in a very short time large numbers of Indians rushing to Christianity. And why? As I looked into this matter as I got a little bit older, I discovered that in the Indian caste system, you have 4 castes with the untouchables at the bottom, and if you're born an untouchable, you're finished. There's nowhere to go. You can't get out of it. Many of the people in the untouchable class were very attracted to Christianity because they saw it as affirming the idea of spiritual equality among persons. This was not immediately or even over a long time translated into complete political or social equality, but it meant something to say to somebody, you're not a nothing, you're not a dog, you are a human being, and that alone counts for a lot. What I'm trying to say, and I think what the gentleman here was trying to say, is that most of the world didn't have that. We didn't have it in Western civilization either. Christianity brought it in. Now, it imported some of it from Judaism, but Judaism was for the tribe. God instructs his chosen people. Christianity takes the idea and universalizes it. If you look at the rights that are stated in the UN Declaration of Human Rights, you notice something very interesting. You read those rights, they're universal rights? No. Virtually all of those rights are the specific legacy of Christianity. It's good that they're universalized because Christianity wanted from the beginning to universalize them. But they are not the shared rights recognized in all the cultures and practices, whether religious or non-religious, in other cultures. So I think we're seeing here from people who have experienced it. I don't care about those inquisitors who came a long time ago. I'm kind of grateful to them, although probably my ancestors would not have shared my enthusiasm. But they brought me into the orbit of Christianity and Western civilization, and the fact that I have the values that I do, the beliefs that I do, the respect for dignity, women, equality, and so on, is entirely the legacy of Christianity as it was exported, I'm sorry to say, Christopher, not by the British, but by the Portuguese. The British could have done a better job.